Because of your grace, we can finish this race. The precious Lamb of God. Even when I broke your heart, my sin tore us apart. But I'm standing right here in the midst of my tears, and I claim you to be the Lamb of God. New life can begin for you.
Ever wonder which one of the top fast food franchises make the most money and which ones make the least? We're going to look at the top 5 and the bottom 5, the lowest earning restaurant chains in America by earnings today on Franchise City. So starting from the bottom, number 5 lowest earning franchise is Church's Chicken. A single location of Church's is going to average about $688,000 a year. Church's has about 1,050 franchise units open right now. They closed 35 stores last year, and a freestanding store is going to cost you between $1.1 to $1.6 million to open. Number 4 lowest position is Auntie Anne's, and a single location is going to average only about $562,000 a year. Now, apparently, Shaquille O'Neal owns or did own 8 franchise locations of Auntie Anne's. He should have called Franchise City. A lot better options out there. Auntie Anne's, they've got about 1,200 locations open right now. They closed 20 stores last year, and buying an Auntie Anne's franchise was going to cost you between about $150,000 to $450,000 to open. The number 3 lowest spot from the bottom is Papa Murphy's Pizza. Owning an average location is going to gross about $551,000 a year. Papa Murphy's has about 1,300 locations, and they closed 69 stores last year. I think we're seeing a trend here. Papa Murphy's franchise going to cost you between about $280,000 and $520,000. Second lowest earning franchise on the entire list surprises a lot of people, but it's Subway. And owning an average Subway location is going to gross you about $410,000 a year. Now, Subway, they've got over 23,000 locations, and they closed 996 stores last year. Opening a Subway franchise is a lot cheaper than most of the other stores. Cost you between $140,000 to $340,000. And at the very bottom, the lowest earning franchise of all the top 50 food franchises, and if I could have a drum roll, please, Baskin Robbins. And owning a single location, according to the QSR 50, is only going to gross about $247,000 a year. Now, in fairness to Baskin Robbins, I took a look at their FDD. I looked at their numbers from last year. They do look a little bit higher than what the QSR 50 is suggesting, but not high enough to take them out of the absolute bottom spot. I saw about $350,000. So Baskin Robbins, they've got about 2,500 locations open right now. They closed 26 stores last year. Opening a Baskin Robbins franchise is going to cost you between about $120,000 to $560,000. And now let's take a look at the top 5 franchises by earnings per single location. So number 5 highest earning franchise, McDonald's. And a single McDonald's location is going to average about $2.9 million a year. McDonald's, they've got over 13,000 locations open right now. They closed 66 stores last year, and a traditional restaurant is going to cost you between $1.3 to $2.3 million. Number 4 highest spots, we've got Whataburger, and an average Whataburger location averages about $3.08 million a year. They've got 127 franchised locations. Apparently, corporate owns the rest of those locations. They opened 5 stores last year, a bit of a change. A lot of other stores are closing up. A traditional restaurant, if you could get one, is going to cost you about $1.2 million to open. And the number 3 spot goes to Raising Cane's Chicken. And an average Raising Cane's going to do about $3.2 million gross a year. Raising Cane's has 86 franchised locations. They opened 5 stores last year, and a traditional restaurant is going to cost you between $770 and $1.9 million to open. In the number 2 spot is Shake Shack, and an average Shake Shack location is going to do about $4.2 million a year. Now, according to Shake Shack, they are not selling franchises at this time. And the number 1 spot, if we could have a drum roll please, is Chick-fil-A. An average Chick-fil-A location is going to do about $4.5 million a year. Chick-fil-A, they've got about 2,500 franchised locations. They opened 130 stores last year, and a Chick-fil-A investment is only $10,000. You could be the owner of a Chick-fil-A for only 10 grand. But why is it so cheap? Be sure to check our Chick-fil-A video link at the end of this video. And you got to keep in mind, Chick-fil-A is a different business model than most other franchises, so your ownership is not exactly the same. Now, notice the majority of even the big food franchises have been closing locations. And this data, keep in mind this as well, it's from 2019, before all the craziness started, as the company financials, of course, are always 1 year behind. Is this an indication of what we may be seeing in the future for food? And we only covered food today, but keep in mind some service sector businesses, you can make just as much as a fast food restaurant with an investment that's 1/10 or less the cost. Always give Franchise City Broker Group a call before you buy your franchise to ensure you're making an educated choice. Top reason.
Power of perception. You see, how you perceive a thing determines how you receive a thing. And how you receive determines on whether you'll receive again. You see, the problem isn't the problem. Your attitude, your philosophy is the problem. You see, some people spend most of their time talking about and worshiping the problem than they do on the solution. But what you focus on, you grant reality into your life. You see, Tammy and Susie drive into the same parking lot every Monday through Friday and go to the same job, but Susie is upset about the health benefits, about the air conditioning, about the politics in the office, while Tammy is excited that she gets to have a job, that she gets to pay her bills, that she gets to take her kids to Disneyland with the bonus that she gets every 4 months. You see, what Susie is upset about, Tammy is grateful for. But your outlook determines your outcome, and how you receive a thing determines on whether you receive it again. So 6 months later, Susie was let go while Tammy was promoted. You see, a lot of people talk about, and guys, get this, if you get this, it will change your life forever. A lot of people talk about being single, and they have the perception and the belief that all the good ones are taken, while somebody else with a different perspective has the belief and they come from of, wow, look at all this time I have to build myself up before my one comes. How you receive a thing determines on whether you receive it again. And what you focus on expands, you grant it, you put it in your reality. So if you're perceiving and receiving negativity, then that's exactly what you're going to get in your life, all day, every day. You see, some people see the word impossible while others see I'm possible. And what I'm challenging you to do is to step into that space. Step into the space of I'm possible. Everything is possible. Because it is. You see, the power of perception will change your entire life. You can either be in heaven or hell, right where you are standing, based on what you're perceiving. And I challenge you right now, today, to take another look at all of the stuff you've been complaining about. Take another look. Reframe and take another look at the bills that you're so upset about, because you get to pay them. You have the money to pay your bills, but yet you're upset about them? You created everything in your reality. And if you did, that means you get to be grateful for it. The only way to get more is to be more. And the only way to be more is to become grateful for everything that is.
Nigeria's army recently released this poster of its top 100 terror targets. Among them, Africa's most wanted man, Abubakar Shekau, head of the Islamic terror group Boko Haram.
This person has been unsettling not just really northern Nigeria, but an entire region.
In video obtained by a Nigerian newspaper, the Boko Haram leader, surrounded by bodyguards, boasts he will never get caught because he's doing Allah's work. Shekau adds the war in Nigeria will continue even after him.
I think if he's not put under control by the Nigerian government, this could certainly tip over into a caliphate type idea like we saw with ISIS in Iraq and Syria.
Shekau's brutal insurgency has killed thousands and left millions displaced from their homes.
If you look at what's happened on the last 20 years, it's just massive number of attacks against Christians. 50 to 70,000 have been murdered.
Shekau's mission? Turn Africa's most populous country Islamic and force Christians who make up half the population to either leave, convert to Islam, or die. Johnny Moore, a Christian, and Abraham Cooper, an Orthodox Jew, are co-authors of the new book, The Next Jihad, Stop the Christian Genocide in Africa.
The terrorists in Nigeria and in the surrounding countries around Nigeria where these other insurgencies are taking place are absolutely trying to commit genocide against the Christian communities. They want to wipe them all out.
Moore and Cooper traveled together to Nigeria earlier this year, meeting dozens of Christian victims of Muslim persecution.
Many of them just feel helpless at this point. You never know where it's going to hit next. Their faith, however, remains unshakable. And speaking as a Jewish rabbi, an Orthodox one, I was very inspired by their faith.
To make matters worse, in Nigeria's so-called Middle Belt region, where the Muslim North meets the Christian South, another terror group made up of Muslim Fulani militants are also terrorizing Christians. More than 1,200 Christians were hacked to death in just the first 6 months of 2020 by Fulani militants.
Middle of the night, coming into Christian villages, burning down the homes, killing the people. Just really, really horrible.
The Wall Street Journal reporting how jihadist groups set up random highway checkpoints searching for Christians to kidnap for ransom or simply murder on the roadside. One of those abducted, Polycarp Zongo, pastor of a church east of Abuja, the country's capital city. The terrorist group releasing this video of Pastor Zongo appealing for his release.
They too captured 2 Christian women who are also here with me. I'm appealing that you all do all that's possible to secure our release from captivity.
The terror attacks on Christians spiking under Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari's watch. He's a Muslim from the Fulani tribe. Nigerian Christian leaders accuse President Buhari of doing little to stop the bloodletting. CBN News reached out to Nigeria's ambassador in Washington, D.C. for comment on the ongoing persecution of Christians in his country, but got no response.
It's one thing when North Korea does this or when Iran does this, but this is a democracy. There has to be rule of law in this country.
Nigeria's police and army are also mostly made up of Fulani Muslims.
The attackers are never captured. They are not prosecuted. The security services respond very slowly. A full day can go on with attacks happening and no security shows up. And frequently, the government officials will provide cover.
Meanwhile, the COVID pandemic making the plight of Nigeria's Christians even worse, especially in provinces ruled by Islamic Sharia law.
When the government sends food into these areas, the extremists and the leaders under Sharia law are intentionally keeping food and aid from people that they consider to be infidels, but these are Nigerian citizens.
And it's not just in Nigeria. After losing ground in Syria and Iraq, the top general of U.S. Special Operations Command in Africa is warning that Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other Islamic terror groups are gaining ground in other parts of Africa. On November 10th, ISIS-linked fighters attacked a remote town in northern Mozambique, beheading 50 people in a soccer stadium and kidnapping scores of women. This summer saw a slew of jihadist attacks in Niger, Chad, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, Mali, Tanzania, Kenya, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Moore says for radical jihadists, Nigeria remains the big prize.
This is the most important country in Africa, the 10th largest oil reserves in the world, the largest economy on the continent.
Dr. David Curry, whose group Open Doors has listed Nigeria as the 12th worst place in the world for Christians, is urging the next U.S. administration to make Nigeria a top priority.
This has massive international implication for the entire continent, but we need to focus on what's happening in Nigeria. Otherwise, we could have a massive upheaval in that very important place in the world.
Moore and Cooper hope their book will help our political leaders and people around the world understand the crisis facing Nigeria today.
And I can tell you, every minute the world is asleep is another minute that someone dies. And so whether it's the Jewish rabbi who's been fighting his whole life against injustice, or the Christian pastor who sees them as family, this is an injustice for the whole world, and now it's time to stop it.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Years ago in the 80s, I was speaking in the city of Jingalov in Poland, in the south of Poland, just by the border of the Czech Republic. And the banner behind me as I was speaking wrote this, Christusem inace, Christusem inace. So I asked my inviting pastor, he's actually a doctor, I said, Henrik, what does that mean? He said it's very hard to translate it, but it's like this. It means, but Christ, but Christ. It's the completion of a thought without the full thought being given there. And what we are telling the Polish people is, we have suffered a lot, but Christ. We have been persecuted, but Christ. We have been dominated and made subservient, but Christ. We don't have much wealth in this country, but Christ. Take all the adverse situations and end it with the two words, but Christ. But Christ is able to take. None of you who has come through a winding path has come through that winding path by accident, because your path can be ended with the same words, but Christ.
Washed away all of my sins, and who the Son sets free is truly